amigos, and welcome to the For Diego's Hot Topic. I'm Rodrigo Rodriguez, and with me is Carlos Alberto Diego. We've got Warren Diego and Vinnie Venezuela. Well, after their shock loss to Jordan, 2-1, Australia, the Socceroos, might not even make it to the World Cup. So the question we have is Australia going to make it to Brazil 2014? That's the big question, Carlos.
Look, it's one of those things when we're looking at the Socceroos, we expect them to make it through this group. It's not even what we call a group of death. I'm not saying Asia is easy by any stretch of the imagination, but when we lost against Jordan, I think that was, we all went into a bit of a state of shock, including the players, including the coach, Holger Osciek. We will get to the World Cup, no question about that. But if we think it's going to be easy by any measure, I think we're fooling ourselves. It's going to be a huge battle, and I don't think we've got any room to move now with any of the remaining 5 games, whether it's home or away, to make any mistakes.
The next game against Iraq is extremely important in terms of getting some points out of that game and hopefully a win. With the 2 away games and the 1 home game against Japan, we've really got a good run home. You'd think that Australia's going to get full points at home, so we're not going to panic. But continuity in the performances hasn't been there, which it has been in previous years in terms of consistency. And I'm not sure whether Holger Osciek's got this transformation from old to new 100% right in terms of the players that he's looking to play.
Well, what do we do though? I mean, if you look at, I mean, everyone on Twitter and on the social media are wanting changes to the squad. It's not like a club where you just go and buy players and bring them in. Our best players, Schwarzer, Neil, even though he didn't have a great game, someone like a Bresciano, they're our best players, but they're our oldest players. This whole thing about age is a furphy. You pick players who do and follow the game plan, and I believe he hasn't got those players at the moment, and it's not necessarily the older guys that are letting him down.
Look, I think we'll be okay as well. You're right, I think our last performance was pretty ordinary and there is no consistency happening, but I think Holger's the guy for the job. I think he garners respect. He gave them a bit of a public serving, which is a bit unprecedented, but I think hopefully from that they will galvanise and they'll get their focus back. And if that doesn't work, a conference call with Franz Beckenbauer, that'll do the trick.
Just on the Holger, you raised an interesting point, because after the game he lambasted the team for not following his tactics.
Well, it's a bit of a worry, isn't it, Rodrigo?
Exactly.
When they asked him after the game what went wrong, well, the boys kept on going long and direct, and they kept on doing it all half, and I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know. I've lost control. I had this feeling that he'd lost control of what this team was doing, and then he promised changes. Well, the question I ask you, Holger, I know you watch us every week, the question I ask you is, who are you going to change? What are these big changes going to be? Warren, you look at me bemused and befuddled about what I'm saying, but what changes? He's promised changes, the national coach. He's got to follow through now after the disaster of Jordan. What is he going to do?
Well, I personally think he's created chaos theory, Carlos. He gives the impression that there's chaos. Externally, there's chaos. Internally, there's not so much chaos. I think he's aware of what he wants to do. I think he's actually got to have the courage of his convictions. I agree with you. He doesn't need to make wholesale changes.
But he said he was.
Yes.
People are going to expect this now.
Yep.
Who's going to be going? What heads are going to be rolling? Because he's talking about big changes.
I'd like to see some consistency in terms of strike force, in terms of what's going to be up front. There hasn't been a consistency in that. Australia's problem is really about scoring goals, particularly away from home. Now, I know we've never been prolific scorers, but we've always looked like we were going to score goals far more than we have so far in the away games of this campaign. So the strike force and the way he sets up to score goals, I think, is the biggest thing. And the rest comes from there. Bresciano, I think, has played better than what he did last time, but his general form since he's come back has been good.
So you can't drop him.
You can't drop him.
You can't drop Neil.
No, you can't drop Neil.
You can't drop Schwarzer. They're the older blokes,
yeah.
Right? Osciek, he had a hamstring early on in the game, and people are blaming him. Josh Kennedy might be a good inclusion.
Yeah, I think.
But any of the young guys are all unproven. They're certainly, that doesn't fill me with confidence if you start bringing in the Rukavitzes and the Leckies and all these sort of guys, because they're hardly playing football for their own clubs.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I think Robbie Cruz was someone who's showing a bit of potential, and so you'd want someone like him and maybe a Kennedy up as a prong. I think Archie Thompson off the bench, and Holger himself said he should have probably put him on a bit earlier because he did make a difference.
But Archie's not the long-term solution.
No,
he's not even the solution for the rest of this campaign. He's great off the bench. He scored against Lebanon, scored against a beautiful goal against Jordan too. But he's certainly not someone that fills me with confidence if they start starting him.
But he doesn't seem to know. Does he go tall and small? Does he go two smalls? Does he go... That's the thing that I don't necessarily like. And in all honesty, Bresciano's form's been so good. Against Japan, when Australia clearly played best, we had lots of opportunities and really didn't capitalise. As much as Japan scored the goal first, Australia probably should have won that game on the balance of chances. And the away games previously, they've always looked like they could score. I'm worried about the fact that they really don't look like they can score away from home.
I think it's greater than that. Jordan, who's, probably, maybe Victorian Premier League, standard side. I mean, at best they might be a mid-range A-League side on their day, the way they played the other day. But they played the game of their lives. They pressurised the Socceroos all over the ground. Their physicality was... they intimidate us with their physicality. We wilted, and that's why we ended up going long and more direct, because we weren't prepared. Well, we couldn't play. We didn't have the composure to play through midfield. Now, that is a worry.
That's a massive indictment on the Socceroos.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the problems are greater in that suddenly the ability to maintain possession through good play wasn't there, and that shows a lack of confidence in something, whether it's a team play, whether it's in your teammates, but those boys lack composure, and Lebanon really harried us out of any sort of composure or calm play.
I think the Socceroos game plan will always be to build a fit brand of football players, and I think that your Matty Mackay's are handy for that, and your younger players, we need them, and your Brett Holmans zipping around a little bit more and being in sync. I think it's been a bit of a glitch lately, but I think we can get back to some of the key things we need. And Holger, I think, as a German coach from that sort of tradition of fast counter play, I think he'll get us there. But I think the guys basically have got to want it, and I think they were up for the serve that they received.
Based on Carlos's analogy there, I actually think maybe the Melbourne Knights team could take us to the World Cup. Maybe the Melbourne Knights team could actually... Look,
our Jordanian mates, I really apologise. Actually, they have been plucky, but they did lose 6-0 to Japan, or 6-1 to Japan in Japan. This side is a side that played really well in front of their own crowd on that night, but they're not going to finish second in this group.
No.
There's no way they're going to finish second. We will defeat ourselves if we don't go to the World Cup. We'll go to the World Cup as long as people are switched on. Brett Holman switched on. He was anonymous the other night, Brett Holman. And he's so important to our side. Okay, granted, he probably wasn't happy by playing wide on the left rather than in the hole, the way he likes to float through. Perhaps his positioning wasn't right. Perhaps some of the players aren't confident or maybe have faith in what Holger's saying 100%. But, we can't recruit anyone else. That's the group. That's our coach. You've got to get it right for Iraq. And they are a team that we've had a lot of problems with.
Yeah, I just think they should remember the words Pim Verbeek when they're a bit worried about Holger Osciek, myself, and being played out of position.
And let me just say, last World Cup campaign, they probably played worse than what they are right now, and we still got through undefeated.
And we almost made it through to the next group,
exactly
next
right.
phase as well.
Exactly right.
Well, gents, let's wrap this up now. And Carlos, we think we know your answer to the question.
We'll go, but it'll be a battle.
Vinny?
Of course we'll go.
We'll finish top of the group. I don't know whether that's mathematically possible.
Well, clearly from the four Diegos, the answer to the question, will Australia end up going to the World Cup in Brazil 2014? It's pretty much an emphatic yes, but they're going to have to work pretty hard.
Well, we have to get to the World Cup because we've got our tour.
That's true.
Let's go to the World Cup. We want to follow the Socceroos too. So make sure you get there, Holger.
Well, that's the hot topic for this time round with the four Diegos. Until next time, ole!